Hey everyone, welcome back to SDRescue. This week, we are joined by Blake Johnson, CEO and founder of Outbound View. Remember to connect with myself and Grayson on LinkedIn, connect with Blake as well. Send us your cold emails. We'd love to review them. This week, we're going to be looking at an email from Blake himself. He's going to introduce the email. And remember, you yourself, you could be Blake on this show. We'd love to have you. Hit us up, send us your cold emails. Let's jump right into it. I'm going to switch the camera on over and we're going to turn it over to Blake and get right into the email.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I love this. I absolutely love messaging and copywriting books and everything. So excited to see how you guys kind of help with this template and some of the things we've been working on.
All right, we've got that shared up now. So go ahead and walk us through the email. We're excited.
Yep. So we have an offering and it's called Buyer Movement. And it's a pretty simple premise. We help companies chase down people who are at existing clients and have left and has gone somewhere that they could purchase again. And then our inside sales teams comes on, we do all the research and we find those people. And so when we get people on phone calls, it's pretty obvious. Like it's easy to get to the point. You can ask questions, but we've struggled. I mean, we've had 15 different templates. This is one that has been performing really well. But the overall concept here is to use the thought of old fans. So old fans are just people who know and love your brand. It's one of the easier ways we are associating it. And with these two templates, we just had a rule, like no more than a couple paragraphs, super quick to the point, and let's try and get people on a phone call to describe it a little bit more. So I'll go ahead and read through these, and then we can go through. But there's two different versions, and then we have a similar follow-up on day 3, which is just really quick and to the point. So version 1, people are moving around more than ever. If you reach out to people that you've worked with at a previous company, they're 10 times more likely to book a meeting. If your service is as good as you say it is, that meeting is 5 times more likely to close because they already know how great you are. Do you have 15 minutes to talk about turning old fans into new accounts? So straightforward and to the point. Do you want me to go through version 2 and version 3, or do you want to break?
Yeah, go ahead and read the second one.
Okay. So version 2, same thing, little bit of a different subject line, but similar concept. And to give a little bit more context, we're reaching out to services companies here, mostly IT, if I remember correctly. So someone with purchasing power just left an existing client of yours. They will most likely end up somewhere that they can purchase from you again. If you don't find and contact these people, you're leaving tens of thousands of dollars on the table. Are you open to discussing how we can find all these time-sensitive people who've left your existing clients?
All right.
And then could you? Yep. Well, I
think we don't have the follow-up. We were going to just focus on these 2 versions today because I'm really interested in as well the fact that you did test 2 versions, because a lot of people don't. A lot of people just send that one and think that's it.
For sure. Yep. We can get into the versions and some of the different levels, and as far as you guys want to take it, as far as what we learned and some of the personas we were going after.
Okay. So let's go in now into Grayson's color coding. He is the wizard with the Crayola. And Grayson, you want to walk us through where you color-coded stuff? We'll start the discussion here.
Yeah, so I think kind of taking a step back, Blake is using a very similar approach, I think, in both emails, where he's making some assumptions to frame the setting and then goes into, in the first version, he really focuses on the benefits, the vision of like, wow, 10x more booked meetings, 5 times more likely to close, like, wow. And then in the second version, he kind of uses a similar play, right, where he sets up the stage with assumptions, but then he focuses more on the pain instead, where he says, you're leaving tens of thousands of dollars on the table, really trying to open up that wound. And I think this is a really good way to go about emails, especially when you are succinct and concise like he is. If you'll notice, there are about 3 to 4 lines max for this email, which is perfect size for kind of going in, hitting some points, trying to see if you can convert or start a conversation from there. I'd say the only big critique that I would have is I talk about this before in past episodes, but I think Blake has the advantage that they seem to really know the types of people that they're targeting, and that is key when you use assumptions. But still, it can be risky to use so many in the email. I think if I could make some changes to these, I would maybe slice out a few of the ones, a few of the if statements, or maybe a few of the claims, because it does kind of paint a very big picture that can sometimes overwhelm people. Sometimes all people need to know is that people are moving around more than ever before, or sometimes all people need to know is the stats, right? Often, really, the context kind of follows with a stat if they're engaged enough. But overall, Blake, I think these are really good emails, and the really impressive part is you do exactly what you said you're trying to do. You're coming in, you're trying to very briefly frame a picture with as few words as possible, and then just grind hard on a future vision or those pains that the buyers have.
Yeah, it's a really good point, because some of our later variations of this, we do start to pull in more third-party stats where these were just rather direct, like just calling out, like, if you're good, as you say you are, like they are a little bit in your face. Partially because we were going at CEOs of IT companies who end up doing a lot of the selling. But yeah, we actually made some adjustments exactly along the lines you're talking about.
Interesting. So before I start talking, these are targeted at CEOs of managed services companies or IT services companies. And do you do any targeting in the revenue org, like sales leaders, CROs, VPs of sales, directors of sales?
They were a part of it. So what we found is, just from research, that many of these, like a lot of small businesses where, these companies were 10 to 50 employees, typically the CEO is still doing a lot of the selling. And so we were trying to play off that a little bit. Now, we did go to VP of sales, but we got absolute crickets. I mean, just no responses. And so we're making some assumptions that if we do go to VP of sales, it needs to be larger orgs, because those VPs of sales will actually have more power.
Yes.
So we did try, but we did not succeed at all.
I was just curious, because I want to approach this, because we have Grayson, master copywriter, and I'm going to take a little different role, because I'm director of sales for an IT services company. So I'm going to try and act like a customer, because there were a couple of reactions I had while you read the email to me, and I just want to make sure before I put my foot in my mouth, I understand the context and who you're sending to. So I agree with you. For our smaller competitors, you have a lot of owner operators that either outsource, or like when you're saying 10 to 60 employees, CEO's 100% the salesperson and makes a lot of those decisions. If they have the title VP of sales, typically they're just an individual contributor salesperson. So I would agree with your assessment.
Yep.
Whereas we're much larger, 120 employees.
I wanted to point one thing out that you mentioned, Blake, that I think is a really good point, and it's kind of continued on through all three of us as we talked. But for anyone watching, I think it's important to note that we are so deep in the targeting when we're talking about these assumptions. And I think that relationship is really key, regardless of what outreach channel you use. If you're going to make assumptions, you need to have a hypothesis behind why you're saying it, why you're using that and not other words that might be better off for you. And I just think it's phenomenal. This is a great example for anybody trying to get good at cold email. I think what Blake is doing here is great. He has 2 versions, and each version is down to the very T of his persona. He knows that they're CEOs. He's assuming, based on the type of companies and the situations that they're in, that those CEOs are likely involved in the sales process. And that, with that context, like this email is very, very well written, because you can tell in those two different versions, you're trying to hit on themes that would matter to a CEO who's either involved as an individual contributor for the sales organization, or is maybe like leading and trying to grow it. So I just wanted to call that out, that targeting is huge in email. And just like Blake said, these messages are likely great for CEOs, and yet they didn't work for VPs of sales. And I think that is the magic of outbound. There is no template, there's no approach, no tactic that will work across every industry and every use case. But what does matter and what can be applied over and over again is knowledge about the buyers. If you can find messaging that works and tie it to a specific group of people, rather than just, oh, I got good open rates, I got good reply rates, and leave it at that. If you have that data, that is really where I think the puzzle gets cracked for people doing cold email.
Yeah, that's such a good point. We have a process. It's like an assumption board, which it sounds fancy, but it's literally Excel. And we're just setting up experiments. If we're going at CEOs, what is the ask? Is it for a referral? Is it for a meeting? And you just kind of get all of them out. And it's critical that you kind of call your shot before you actually start running the campaign, because everybody who's done outbound for a while or is good enough at outbound, you can kind of justify results of any campaign, right? I mean, you could kind of, but if beforehand you say, I think we should, book on average 3 meetings a week doing this process at this person, then you're kind of, you're locking yourself into some type of result.
So I'm going to steal your assumption board. That's a really good idea. So let me tell you my feedback from as a prospect, because I think I fit this mold decently, and now that I understand the context behind it, I can tell you. So I resonate much more with the second version than the first, and the reason I think that is because the first one is really targeted as a CEO, owner, operator, salesperson, where you say stuff like, if your service is as good as you say it is, and you have and you talk about old fans. So this is somebody who has pride in their company, whereas me as an employee, director level of a smaller mid-size emerging enterprise, not the same amount of like, it's my baby. So yeah. I think there are good assumptions in there, and the tone is right. I resonate a lot with version 2, and I think it's simply because I think you tell a more compelling, or perhaps a more ubiquitous story in version 2. So for us, so I'll give you some background on our company, is we sell primarily to quick service restaurants, and that's a very tight-knit group, as a lot of industries are, and people leave Wendy's and go to Chick-fil-A, or they leave Focus Brands and they go to Inspire Brands, right? That happens all the time, especially in IT, because you bring on a new IT person because the one you had before broke something or doesn't know how to put something new in you want put in, and the new person coming in hopefully won't break something or knows how to put in what you want put in. At least that's what we find. So this is a big pain for us, is we have people that move. We even know they move and can track they move, but sometimes we struggle to set the meeting. So in version 2, that resonates with me a lot, just because it's a problem that I've seen firsthand. And I love the soft ask at the end. Soft ask is going really, really well. I hammer soft ask to my reps just because I want to reply and I want to have a conversation before I want to like grab time on your calendar. So I really love version 2. Version 2 is awesome. I would reply to that email.
Version 2, the opening line, I like, of the two, I like it better. The opening line is so much better than version 1. I think we really struggle with what is that opener that people are actually going to care about, that first sentence. And that scenario is easier to describe.
Yeah, and I've experienced it firsthand. Like when you say someone with purchasing power just left an existing client of yours. First of all, as a salesperson, I hate it. Because now now the guy I have a relationship with, I got to start over when the new person comes in. I'm on ground zero. Second of all, I want to know where they're going, and hopefully I sell them again. But for some reason, our reps, and when you get to the larger corporate relationships, it's our executive team. And so that's really the challenge is even a larger company like us, the executives are the ones that are managing the relationship, not necessarily the rep directly. So if the executives don't keep touch and set a new meeting or pass a meeting or tap a rep on a shoulder and say, hey, Janet just left from this company and she moved here, you should reach out, it doesn't happen. And you have to do that manually since we don't use Sales Navigator or stuff like that. So we miss out on those opportunities. I know we do. And so for this, the story is captivating. And I just think that first line, you're right, is a better intro into the story. Should we should we wrap up here and move on to the rewrite, or do we have more to say about these here?
No, I like them. I'd say big picture feedback, well structured. I can see where you guys saw challenges with the intro because they were really hard, but I think assumptions are often the easiest to use just because, if you're right, it resonates. If you're wrong, hopefully you set it up in a way to where it's like disqualifying the right people and you don't have to deal with them. So yeah, I think these are both really well-made emails.
Thank you.
All right. Here we go. Let's check out and see what our very own Grayson Fulbright has written today. I'll leave the color code up here for the folks at home so we can see how we color code it.
Awesome. Cool. So similar to Blake, I tried to take the approach of kind of testing two versions. I think the big difference between what I've tried to do here and what Blake did is I tend to be very tight with what I test. And so version 1 and version 2 here are actually very similar, aside from kind of the actual topic and the actual pitch that I'm trying to go for here. So I'm going to read the first one first and then go on to the second one. First name, prospects are 10x more likely to book a meeting and 5x more likely to close if they were a previous customer before moving jobs. Employees change jobs more frequently than ever before, which is giving sales teams unique access to new opportunities through their existing customer relationships. Since your customers likely had past employees move to new companies, I'm hoping to connect about ways to turn those existing relationships into new accounts for company name. Would you be open this week or next to discuss? And then the second version, right? So I tried to keep the intro the same. I tried to keep kind of the transition and the CTA the same, and I really just focused on a change of topic here. So rather than focusing on the future and kind of a good vision of the benefits, instead I tried to dig into the pain. So I'll just read up to kind of the new line. First name, prospects are 10x more likely to book a meeting and 5x more likely to close if they were a previous customer before moving to a new company. However, sales teams often don't take advantage of these relationships. Instead, many focus on cold leads while losing out on higher converting deals from people they already know. And then kind of going on into the same structure. Any thoughts from you, Blake or Austin, before I explain my homework a little bit?
I love those openers. Your opening line is just very, very tight, and it kind of describes it at an 8th grade level, which is what we really challenge. Is the challenge with this offering is just really dumbing it down.
For me, your version, so both are really good. I love how you dug into the pain. For me, as I've just described previously, that's exactly what we do. Our reps spend tons and tons of time hammering out on cold leads, which are, a name and a number and a business entity, instead of looking at, hey, where could we go to get faster deals? And it's a combination of things, right? Like training and systems to build that. But it's, again, for even us as a larger company, as a smaller company, it'd be even difficult because it'd be, the CEO's responsibility. Moving it to someone like myself who has to look in, hey, do we want to spend on putting in these systems or building these processes into our CRM? Are there going to be triggers? Are we going to get Sales Navigator to send something into our sales engagement platform? What are we going to do? I mean, it starts to be complicated. And there's a lot of pain around solving that problem. Because A, we're missing money, and B, it's not an easy problem to solve internally. So, well, I guess we'll just keep calling leads and we'll just keep plodding along. But your email comes along. Hey, yeah, I'd be open to discuss that.
Awesome. Cool. So, okay, I know we don't get a lot of time, so I'm going to basically approach this differently than I have in previous episodes. Instead of explaining kind of why I did the things I did, I'm going to explain it from the perspective of testing, kind of why I did it like this with these two different things head to head. And to start, I looked at the emails that Blake had originally written, and I found the same issue. It's hard to open with topics that are either complicated or just have so many reasons behind why it might be the case. It could be because they're focused on cold leads. It could be because of training, like Austin said. It could be a ton of different reasons. And so when I looked at making the intro, I do this often when looking at intros. I try to find the thing that I believe anyone who I'm targeting, the people that I want to talk to, I'm trying to find something that I absolutely believe they will open. And what did I find? I saw that Blake had some awesome stats. I mean, I don't know if I would say yes or no to this service at this point, since we're on a live call and talking about something else. But I mean, if I saw that stat, I would open the email, even if I wasn't interested, right? Stats are impressive to people because they wonder, why is it that way? So that's why I led with the intro, because again, we talk about this in past episodes, but I don't want the prospect, to be thinking about me and thinking about, oh, I'm getting sold to. I just want them to get their mind in the right perspective about the topic I'm trying to talk to them about. And this is the perfect primer, because now if they open that email, I know for sure that they've at least glazed their eyes over the 10x and the 5x. So something got their attention there. To keep going, I knew that we would have to talk about a topic, but I wanted to do that last. And so instead, I tried to focus on structuring my paragraph or my argument. I had the stat that I knew would catch attention. We leave kind of the second line blank, and then I needed kind of a transition into CTA. What Blake wanted was to show them and kind of like identify to them that he can help nurture these existing relationships into new accounts. And so that's the kind of like the setup I took for the next step. I said, hey, since you guys likely have had this happen in the past, I'm hoping to connect and show you how it's done. And it's that simple. I believe that would be the kind of the shortest, easiest route to get a conversation started. Finally, wrapping back around to that second line, I knew, because of the way that Blake wrote his emails, that there were tons of different use cases that he probably runs into, and lots of different reasons why people would want to talk to him about this. And so I tried to take the same approach he did, and one route, talk about the vision, the benefits, and then the second route, instead, talk about the pain, what's missing. And so using the same topic, right? Employees change jobs, and that gives opportunities for salespeople. All I did was focus on what exactly I'm presenting them. So in the first version, I'm showing the benefit I'm presenting is unique access to new opportunities, which to sales teams, that should be great. Just like Austin said, do you want to cold call leads all day, every day? Or can you get some like competitive access to this thing that other people in your space can't get? And then in the second version, I tried to say the same thing that Blake said, just in a more indirect way, because I did feel, Blake, that in the original email, saying like, if you don't do this, then you're leaving money on the table. We talked about this in a past episode of sometimes the way you word things, especially when it's around a pain, can often kind of come off as arrogant and kind of like invalidating them. And so what I did instead, I focused just on the general. Sales teams often don't. Instead, many focus on. I'm not trying to point at them, the buyer. I'm just trying to talk about a story and hopefully get them to pay attention to that topic. And that is pretty much the explanation. I think the only other thing to consider is that because I set it up this way, I should have pretty similar open rates. So the thing that I can immediately start testing for with these two versions is that second line. If I get more replies or more unsubscribes or more meetings, then I know with enough data that that line has changed everything. And just like we talked about earlier in this show, Some things will work wildly in one market and then completely trash in another market. And that's why you do testing like this, because one line might generate all the meetings you need in one quarter, and then the next quarter it changes. And so I would just say, definitely test everything you do, even if you don't think you're the best writer. Testing is how you get better.
I love it.
For me, I really like, so if I had to hypothesize which one would perform better, I would hypothesize version 2, just because I'm a really strong believer of the fear of life, fear of loss is greater than the prospect of gain. So I think you do a really good job, and you made a good point that we talked about. I think it was episode 2 or 3, where you tell when you're talking about pain, it's really effective to paint a generalized picture of the pain and let the prospect put themselves in the story instead of you telling the prospect they have that pain. I think that was a big learning moment for me, because I fall into that trap sometimes where I'm like, I know your pain really well. I have customers. We have a lot of customers, and so I can, you actually over empathize. And I really like how you did that, how you have the generalization of sales teams often don't take advantage, because when I read it, I go, oh, my sales team is not taking advantage. I like literal reps on my call floor came into my head. So that was very well done. I filled in the gaps. You had a really great job there with the generalization.
Awesome. Yeah. Blake, any final thoughts on these emails? And also a question, do you want to use these? It'd be interesting to see how the stats differ kind of running these new versions in.
I for sure want to use them. Yeah. No, these are great. Like I said, I love the opening line, but we've tested a lot of different variations, but these are a little bit different, and I think they're really just straight to the point. So no, these are great. Yeah, we absolutely will test them.
Awesome. Maybe we can get you on the show again for a follow-up and look at the data.
For sure.
Yeah, we can do
I love when
a big reveal.
Right or wrong.
That's right.
Well, awesome. I think we're right about that time. So everyone, remember, please subscribe. Connect with Grayson and I on LinkedIn. Send us your cold emails. You can also connect with Blake on LinkedIn as well, and follow Outbound View's page. I'm sure they create really great content. Blake's really knowledgeable about Outbound. It was really great having you on the show, Blake. We'd love to have you back and have a follow up to this. That would be really cool to see those results.
Absolutely, let's do it. This was great.
Awesome. I appreciate everybody. Thanks. We'll see. What's up, Grace?
Yeah, I was going to say before we close out, Blake, I did want to give you an opportunity to go into a little bit about buyer movement, or just maybe like a website or a place where people can find out more if they are interested, because we just went through a whole pitch line by line in an email. So now's the time.
Yep. Outboundview.com is, everything will be there. We have call outs for buyer movement specifically right there. And we may be looking at some of our landing pages and building in some of your language as well. So,
man, so scary, so fun. when your data goes to the raw iron,
Right, exactly. So yeah, that's it. Appreciate you guys having me.
Awesome. Cool. Well, thanks everyone for joining us. We did do this episode on Tuesday because of Labor Day yesterday, but join us again every Monday. 11:30 a.m. Eastern time. And like Austin said, please send us your emails. You don't have to hop on a live recording like this. Feel free to just submit them. You can review them and rewrite them anonymously. And as always, make sure to follow the SD Revolution LinkedIn page or YouTube channel for more updates on all the other content that we've got going on.
Awesome. Thanks. We'll see everybody next week.
Thanks, guys.